Welcome to the 52 Love Podcast, your show for 52 lessons in 52 weeks. Before we dive in, remember you can find the audio version of this episode, along with the rest of the series, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Radio Public. And now, here's your host, Ms. Tonya Todd.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the 52 Love Podcast. I'm your host, Tonya Todd. 52 Love began as a blog series last year, 52 Love Lessons in 52 Weeks. This year, we are exploring each of those tips with a new guest each week. This week's tip is to enjoy a delectable dessert with your partner, and here to talk about it is my guest and dear friend, Sherry Rosenthal. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Tonya, for having me. I enjoy your podcast, and I'm a huge fan of yours for
Thank you.
and I'm an English professor at the College of Southern Nevada. I write fiction and nonfiction. A couple of my better-known nonfiction works are My Brother's Voice, How a Young Hungarian Boy Survived the Holocaust, which I wrote with Holocaust survivor Stephen Nasser. I also wrote another Holocaust survivor memoir, co-wrote with my aunt by marriage, Sherry Rosenthal. I've written short stories, poetry, essays, things for small literary journals. I wrote a novel which took me about 10 years to write, just finished it last year, and that was called River Horse Gods, and I'm currently working on a second novel called The Exit Exam.
Well, when I talked to you about this week's tip, you were very excited about it. And then after you read the blog, you were even more excited about it. So why don't you tell us why that is?
Well, I'm extremely excited about it. My husband, Mark, my partner of about 30 years, and we've been married for 27. It's really a kind of a cornerstone of our relationship, desserts, and how we share desserts. We talk about desserts. We look for desserts on the internet. When a bakery opens up in our neighborhood, we're first in line at the soft opening. We go into the bakery. We decide together what to get. We discuss afterward what we thought of the item, if we'd like to go back and get it again. Crumbles cookies here in Las Vegas, but they have them all over in Utah and various other Western states. Every Sunday at 5:30, we look at the Crumbles Cookie website so that we can see what Crumbles is going to be offering next week, and we decide which cookie we'd like to get. We always split our desserts so that we can try more varieties, and it's fewer calories that way. And if we like something, we can circle back and try it again. But when you told me about this item for this week in your blog, I thought this is just custom made for Mark and me, because
And I had no idea. I didn't even know that the cookies, the recipes changed each week. I didn't know that they had a different selection each week. Like, you guys are really into this.
Oh, they do. And our favorite one at Crumbles is that they're all wonderful at Crumbles. And if you haven't tried crumble cookies, then I
Get on that.
Right. But our personal favorite is the peanut butter and jelly. It's a delicious swirl. The cookie, of course, is a circle, and then there's an inner circle of peanut butter, and then inside that circle is another inner circle of jelly, and it's absolutely a beautiful theme. It tastes delicious, and that is our personal favorite. So we always look for that for each other, and we alert each other when that cookie comes around, which is not as often as we like. But we bought so many cookies at Crumbles that we have now $10 free for some point in the future, and we're waiting for that peanut butter and jelly cookie to come around, and we're going to go in and get 4 of those for our $10.
Yum. So tell me what you did for this particular tip. How did you experience this permission to explore desserts together?
Well, I'm a fan of your writing. I love everything you write, and so I dove into this blog post, and just to quote a little bit, not
Did
at length.
Professor Sherry just bring out the notebook?
I'm not going to be lengthy here, but
Oh, no, it's okay. It's just funny. You took notes.
yeah, I want to give you credit for your good writing on this.
Thank you.
And this is what I particularly liked. Down at the bottom of the tip, for a bonus sense of delayed gratification, prepare your dessert as a couple. It need not be difficult for you to enjoy the preparation process. Rejoice in the simplicity. So I thought, okay, this is something we're planning. So, okay, this is a chocolate mousse from IKEA. Anybody can go and get those. And
Okay.
it's $4.99. And what you do is you get the chocolate mousse package, and then when you open it up, there are chocolate mousse pieces. There's the antlers, and there's the body, and there are the feet. And so you put the chocolate mousse together. You can do it yourself, but I'm not very good at mechanical things, so I'll probably
Mhm.
let Mark put it together. And then we're going to take a picture of it, um, enjoy the side of it for maybe a day or two, and then together we're going to eat it. We'll split it up. What we'll do is we'll weigh it out. We'll put it on the little food scale that we have, and then we'll each make very sure that we get um, equal parts of the chocolate mousse that we're going to put together.
Mhm.
And then after we eat it, we'll decide if we think it's good quality chocolate or not. If we think that it's as good as the chocolate rabbit that we put together for Easter from IKEA, and if we want to go and get another one while IKEA still has these. So
I
it's
had no idea there were chocolate desserts that you could put together at IKEA. That's like, that's kind of a cool mashup.
well, there aren't that many, but they are seasonal. There's one for Easter. This one is for Christmas. They may have them for other holidays. Other things that we do for the holidays. Okay, Halloween just came and went, but
Mhm.
this I really love. This is the Russell Stover chocolate orange pumpkin. Now, Mark hates orange, but he knows that I love it. So as soon as
Mhm.
the Halloween chocolates come in, we usually get these Russell Stover packaged chocolates at Walgreens. He'll go over to Walgreens before the orange ones sell out, and he'll make sure that I get one of these for Halloween every Halloween, and I really love it. But he does it for me because I love it, and he doesn't like it that much, but he wants me
But
to
he
have.
loves you.
Yeah. And another wonderful thing that he did for me, he was at Sam's Club recently, and I'm just going to hold this up. This is Wild Ophelia, a pouch of pumpkin spice bites, which is still available at Sam's Club. Um, he does not particularly like filled chocolates, but he knows that I adore them, and also that I love pumpkin. So he called me up and said, I see these at Sam's Club. Do you think you might like to try them? And I said, yes, I think I would like them very much. So he brought them home for me. He had one. Predictably, he didn't like them very much, but he saved them all for me. And I've been enjoying them about one a day. And he's just so happy that I like it. So then I said to him, well, what would you like that you think you might like better? And he said, well, I like Wild Ophelia. It's a women-owned business. I really want to support them, but I don't like pumpkin very much. So I was at Sam's Club, and I found these. These are by Wild Ophelia, which you both
Is
like
it
chocolate dessert cups. And so I called him and asked, would you like to try these? And so um, I brought them home, and it turns out he really likes those, but I don't like them as much. So this is how we share desserts. Here's one that we both enjoy. This is the Russell Stover chocolate Santa. So we've got a package of those, and we're working through them. Um, and collaboratively, we both enjoy them. Also, here's something. This is English Cadbury flakes. Um, you can get this at the World Market on Decatur, and we always share desserts so we don't eat too much. So what we'll do is we'll unpackage the flake, and we'll cut it in half. You know, he's got a Swiss Army knife.
Mhm.
It's just perfect for that. And then we share. So those are some of the things we do. Holidays are very important to us. We figure out, like, for Thanksgiving, um, do we want to make a pumpkin pie? Do we want to make a chocolate, a, a pumpkin cheesecake or a
Hmm.
chocolate thing? So this year we decided, since we're both very busy right now, let's just buy a pumpkin pie rather than make one, because making a pumpkin pie together is fun, but it's very labor intensive. So we're in the process of deciding, do we want a Costco pie, a Sam's Club pie? Do we want it from Kneaders? Do we want it from Humboldt Sweets, which is a wonderful bakery here in Las Vegas, down in the Henderson area, or from Freed's, or from someplace else? So we're kind of leaning in the direction of Humboldt Sweets, but we're still talking it over. We also look at pictures of sweets on the internet to see what really looks good to us. And then we might go and try a slice of pumpkin pie at Humboldt Sweets and see if we like that, and if we want to invest in the whole pumpkin pie, or if we'd like to try another one. But it's always very collaborative with us. And I think it strengthens our relationship. I mean, obviously, there's a lot else to our relationship besides that, um, but it's kind of a touchstone with us. And we both enjoy making these decisions and then going on these adventures together, and seeing what we thought about it.
It sounds like you have been preparing for this episode your entire marriage.
Yes, and not intentionally, but when you,
Right, but
but it does, let me tell you another thing. I think, this is just me, um, and doesn't have that much to do with the topic of this episode, but it's a little bit related. I really love to express my fond feelings for people through food, or through some kind
Mhm.
of food that I think that they'll
That's
enjoy.
related.
Yeah, and how we got to talking about this episode, we were over visiting with our mutual friend Amanda Skenendor, who's just written just a fantastic novel, The Second Life of Muriel West. And I love this novel so much, and I'm so fond of Amanda. I really wanted to bring Amanda something to express how I felt about this book and about her. I had just read the book and gotten tremendous pleasure out of it. So I went online, and this is Caroline's Bakery, an online bakery in South Carolina that Mark and I had discovered on our travels. And I thought, well, Amanda likes chocolate. Um, so I want to order for something chocolate from Caroline's Bakery, just to express um, what the book means to me, and what she means to me as a friend. And so I brought her that, and I was telling you about it, and this is how we got onto the subject of this podcast. So yeah, I think I have been preparing for it my entire life. And the
And it
thing
was delicious, and Amanda was a recent guest on the show, and her episode was amazing. Like, it was just all a wonderful match made in heaven.
Yeah, it really was, and I watched that, and also I'm just so honored to be in the company of other people that you've had on here, who I really admire, and whose work I admire: Wendy Rimmer, Amanda and Stephen Skenendor, Stephanie Story, so many people, Bob Griswick, so
Some of
many.
my favorite people.
Uh, all of their podcasts have been wonderful, and I'm just so honored to be in their company.
Well, thank you for agreeing to be part of it. I love it. I would really like for you to share with the audience what you write and what has inspired you to write these different topics, because that is how we met, is through writing.
Well, the thing that I guess has had the most success so far, the Holocaust memoir that I wrote with Stephen Nasser, that he just came into my office at College of Southern Nevada one day, and he was looking for somebody, basically to ghostwrite the book. Although it turned out that I got author credit for it, so technically I'm not a ghostwriter. And so I read the story, and I was just
That
very,
was really kind of him to give you that credit.
yeah,
So often ghostwriters just have to stay in the shadows, so
right, yeah. And so we negotiated that, and it was decided that I would get cover credit, if the book were ever published, which it turned out, in fact, that it was, thankfully, by Stevens Press, which is now defunct, but they were associated with the Las Vegas Review Journal. But I was just very struck by the story. I I have a background growing up hearing about the Holocaust, so it was something that interested me. And so I decided to take it on as initially an editing project, but it turned out to be more of an overhaul of the entire manuscript that he gave me to work on. Then I was visiting my aunt and uncle in Santa Monica, and my aunt by marriage, Irene Rosenthal, is a Holocaust survivor of a different sort. She was not in a concentration camp, but her family had the wherewithal to flee Pforzheim, Germany, in the northern part of Germany, go first to Holland, then to Italy, then eventually to San Francisco. And they settled in San Francisco, where she met um, my uncle, my father's brother, Sam Rosenthal. And so we were talking about my brother's voice, and she said, "Hey, I've got a manuscript here. Take a look and see if you'd like to work on this." And so her manuscript is about going from country to country during the Holocaust, not
Mm-hmm.
being in a concentration camp, not hiding in the forest, or the kinds of things that many other Holocaust memoirs cover. And so I said, at that time, I was also teaching a course at College of Southern Nevada in Holocaust and genocide literature. And I said, I think this could make a new contribution to Holocaust memoirs. I haven't read one quite like this. So we worked on that together, and um, that was published by Amazon. And so I teach them both in my Holocaust and genocide literature class at the College of Southern Nevada. The book that I'm working on now comes more from my teaching experience as a community college teacher. Long story short, I got a PhD from University of California, San Diego. My mentor and graduate advisor, Michel de Soto, was one of France's leading intellectuals in the 60s, quite famous at the time and still quite well known in France as a cultural theorist. I was his protege, I guess you might say. And before his death in 1986, he had been appointed to lead a think tank in France. And as his mentee, I guess you might say, I was invited to go over and be his assistant. Unfortunately, he died before that could happen.
Mm.
I was thrust into a situation of having a new PhD but not being employed. A friend of mine got a job unexpectedly and kind of pushed me forward as somebody who could substitute for her at the community college she was teaching at part-time, remedial English, for which I was completely unprepared. And I needed to either step up or get fired from that job, and I needed the job very much because I had student loans to repay. So this is how I came to teach and eventually get my students to succeed in passing the exit exam, which is the topic of my novel, the title of my novel, so that they could go on to enroll in college level English. So the whole thing is not completely true, but it's based on that true story, and that's the premise of my book, that these students, um, my character, whose name is Taylor, helps her students succeed, and she in turn teaches her many things about herself that she would not know otherwise.
How did you come up with that name?
Well, that was the real name of the task that I had at hand, the exit exam, and how the
I
school.
meant Sailor. I mean, that's an interesting name for a character.
An interesting name for a character. I was looking for a name that was not forgettable. I was looking for a name that would be associated with San Diego and the sea. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for a name that had something to do with my character's passion, which is swimming, and also a name that somebody in the 1960s might have given their daughter, although it was a little bit unusual. But somebody in the 1960s in San Diego might have given their daughter. And also, I just liked it.
Yeah, it
So,
was a great choice.
yeah, Taylor Mars, that's her name.
So, you are also an artist in residence here. Why don't you explain what that means and how that experience has been for you?
Well, I'm on the artists and schools community roster of the Nevada Arts Council. That's a wonderful list of artists who work and teach in the um, all throughout Nevada, all throughout the state of Nevada. What we do is we offer seminars and workshops and panels and what have you on various aspects of the arts that we know about. I've given one at the Rainbow branch of the Clark County Library called The Frameworks of Fiction, and I took 5 frameworks of writing that I thought might be useful for people to kind of break down into their component parts. What is each one? How do you accomplish each one in the writing of a piece of writing, whatever that might be, a novel or a short story, what have you. Um, I also do seminars on writing or collaborating on the memoir because I've got that experience. I do that
Mm-hmm.
with the Nevada Arts Council, and basically anything that any group might be interested in having me talk about. I can talk about the writing process. I can talk about working with an editor. I can talk about working collaboratively with a group of people on a piece of writing. Um, just anything having to do with the writing process or the writing product that people think they might be interested. I can offer that as a seasoned teacher and as a writer. So that's what the Nevada Arts Council aims to do, to kind of marry those two aspects of the artistic experience, people that can teach about the arts and people that are artists. And so that's the reason for the roster. And it's really wonderful. I would encourage anybody to check it out who's interested in having, not necessarily me, but um, a roster artist come in and give a talk. And also, if you have those skills and if you'd like to be on the roster, they're always looking for new people. I think you'd be great on the roster, Bob.
Thank you.
But yeah, Amanda is on it. Um, so yeah, it's a wonderful thing and it's a real resource for the Nevada arts and Nevada artists.
And you also helped with the selection for the faculty of last year's Las Vegas Writers Conference.
Yeah, I was able to do that in my capacity as a scholar in the humanities. And I mean, we have so many wonderful faculty at the conference every year, but I think last year it was especially wonderful. It's always wonderful, but it's an honor for me to be involved with the conference. It's an honor for me to be a member of the Henderson Writers Group, which you're a very active member of, past president. You've done so much for the group. And
I wasn't the president, I was the education coordinator.
yeah, the education. Andre Barzard is the president, so I don't want to get those mixed up. But I mean, you do so much work for us. You could be the president, or if you ever did want to be the president, you would do a fantastic job of it. And
Thank you.
everything that you do for us, yeah, education coordinator, everything you do to get scholarships for young students that are interested in being writers, getting students from the community to participate in the conference, volunteer for the conference, attend the conference. This is some of the best work in the world. I'm passionate about education, and students are our future. They're the future of the world, and you do so much for them, and it's such good work.
Well, thank you for your help with that.
Well, and thank you.
Why don't you tell the audience where they can find you and how they can support your work?
Well, okay. You can find me at the College of Southern Nevada. That's probably the easiest and most convenient place to find me. Sherry.Rosenthal at csn.edu. You can find both of the Holocaust memoirs that I have co-authored at the first one, My Brother's Voice, mybrothersvoice.com. You can also find that on Amazon, My Brother's Voice at amazon.com. If you'd like to read the memoir that I wrote with my aunt, Irene Rosenthal, that's available through amazon.com. Run, Run, Hitler's Coming, it's called. And if you'd like to work with me as a roster artist, just Google Nevada Arts Council, Artists in Schools and Communities roster, and then look for the list of Artists in Schools and Communities artists. And I'm under Sherry L. Rosenthal.
And is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience about dessert?
Well, yeah, when we travel, we always seek out new desserts. For example, we love to go to the Tuacahn Musical Theater in St. George, and we found a wonderful cookie place up there called the Sugar Cookie, which I can highly recommend. St. George is not too far from here. So if you find yourself up there for the Tuacahn Festival or just traveling through, go to the sugar cookie. Mark and I both agree that the original sugar cookie with almond frosting is especially delicious.
Mm.
One of our favorite places to go um, outside of um, Las Vegas, California, and the West is to go to New York. In Manhattan, we have discovered a wonderful place for brownies. It's called Fat Witch Brownies in the Chelsea Marketplace. You can also order Fat Witch Brownies online. Our favorites, however, are called the Witch Ends. Okay, there's the brownies, and the conceit is it's like a Wizard of Oz conceit. If I can find it here, yeah, here it is. Yeah, when you go to the Chelsea Market, you can pick up one of these little cards here, broom service, 12% discount. And in the corner there is the witch. It's supposed to be the Wizard of Oz witch, and all of the brownies are named after witches. So you've got the Emerald City brownie. You've got the Ruby Slippers brownie. Um, we love all of them, but one of the ones that we really like a lot that's not available at the Chelsea Marketplace, but you can get it online. It's called Witch Ends. And what they do is they bake their brownies. This is just their basic brownie. They bake it and then they cut off the ends and they sell the ends separately. Now, if you're ordering online, if you're not there in New York, which we of course are, not there in New York, we're here in Las Vegas, but those travel very well, even in the heat of summer. So what we do is we usually wait for the free shipping or for some kind of deal, and we
Mm-hmm.
order maybe 2 boxes of witch ends, and then we'll go over to CJ's Frozen Custard. And I'm talking about Las Vegas places because obviously this is where we live. So CJ's Frozen Custard in the Aliante section of North Las Vegas, and we buy a pint of the frozen custard, and then we'll have the witch ends with the frozen custard on top of it. Then, if you want something really, really good, you can get Ghirardelli. It's in a squeeze bottle. You squeeze some delicious chocolate Ghirardelli sauce on
I have
top.
some of that at home.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And this is one of the collaborative things that Mark and I do together for dessert. It's not quite like making the chocolate mousse, um, but it's making dessert together, not from scratch, but it's
Mm-hmm.
dessert that we arrange together. Also in New York, we would highly recommend Junior's Cheesecakes for any of their cheesecake. The strawberry cheesecake is absolutely wonderful, but you can't go wrong with any of their cheesecakes. Levain's Bakery in New York is another one that we've discovered together that we particularly enjoy. All of those have online presences. Junior's Cheesecake, Levain's in New York, um, Fatwitch in New York. For ice cream, that would be a little more difficult
Yeah.
to order. But if you find yourself in New York, go to the Creamery. They have wonderful ice cream.
Mm.
So we just like to explore. Another thing that he does for me, which is really sweet. I lived in Europe for a couple of years. I lived in Barcelona, Spain, and I became very fond of a particular Spanish hot chocolate there, which um, I've tried to find it, but I can't quite ever find it in America. So he went online and he researched a recipe for me. And the way you make the Spanish hot chocolate, you take 6 squares of baking chocolate, you add whole milk. I forget the exact measurement, but you add whole milk and then you put cornstarch in, and then you whisk it all together, and that makes that hot chocolate. And it was the first time I had something that was equivalent to the Barcelona hot chocolate. Um, and it was thanks to him researching it and making it for me. Another thing that he's found out is there's like a creme brulee, but it's a special one from the Catalonia region of Barcelona called crema catalana, and um, you have uh, to burn the top of the creme brulee. It's a little more of a dense burning process, and the crust is a little bit thicker than just plain creme brulee. So he found a place called Barcelona in the Henderson area that makes crema catalana. It's just exactly the way I remembered it from Barcelona, and it was just delicious, and it was so wonderful to go there and get that. And then as a third example, I've also spent time in Poland, and I love pierogies with sweet cream, which is a dessert item as well. And he found recently and took me there a place in Las Vegas called the Pierogi Village, and I had my fill of pierogies with sweet cream. Delicious. And then on top of that, I love
And the cherry on top.
yeah, this is the last example, a particular preparation of apple pie that you can only find in Poland. And he found me that too, Polish apple pie at the Pierogi Village. So these are the kinds of things we do together. We seek out new restaurants, we seek out new bakeries. The Bloom and Buns is another one that we really love, close to our house. In the
You really were the perfect guest for this episode.
yeah, I think I am the perfect guest for it. And Tanya, in these still, I mean, I want to call it post-pandemic times, but these are still kind of pandemic times. I think we're hopefully at least moving toward being past the pandemic.
Mhm.
We're not there yet. Um, and Mark and I, we both really love to have adventures and we love to do new things, but there are certain things that are repetitive things we can count on, like
Mhm.
holiday desserts, seeking out a pumpkin,
Right.
seeking out a Yule log for the Christmas season. Are we going to get it at Freed's, or are we going to make it ourselves, or are we going to do something else for a Yule log? But just a few simple certainties that are going to bring you pleasure, that are synonymous with certain times of the year, and you can count on them. And it doesn't solve everything, it can't possibly, but it siphons
But
off.
they're little moments of joy that you experience together.
Yeah, and I think it's very important nowadays to siphon off as best you can some of the uncertainties of daily life, and whatever you can do to create islands of pleasure that that I mean, really none of us have real control over anything. The house could fall down, a cyclone
Mhm.
could come through. You can't predict the weather. You can't predict how other people are gonna, what other people are gonna do or how they're gonna act. But you can predict certain rituals, certain um, uh, occurrences, if you will, of your own life, and you can bring yourself pleasure with these. It's not 100%. Like if you got a pumpkin pie last year and you want to repeat it, the pumpkin harvest season this year, they've been writing about it in the news, was not very plentiful. So
Mhm.
what we've discovered with certain forays into what pumpkin pie are we going to get for Thanksgiving is there's a lot of tapioca starch being added to grocery store pumpkin pies this year, and they're not as good as they usually are.
Mhm.
It's not anybody's fault. Um, a lot of people want to buy pumpkin pie, and so the grocery stores are doing the best they can to create enough pumpkin pies so that everybody that wants them can buy them. But qualitatively, in our opinion, and this is some opinion that Mark
Right.
share, the pumpkin pies that we've had so far are not as good. And this is why we're deciding maybe we're going to go to Humboldt Sweets, where they're going to make a smaller batch and we're going to get a really good quality pumpkin pie from a private bakery this year instead of
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
from a commissary. But that, that kind of goes to my point. Um, you can't predict the pumpkin harvest. You can't
Right.
predict the ingredients of a batch of chocolate or how it is tempered. Or
Right. But I love your concept of just find those islands of happiness, and that sounds like a wonderful place to wrap this. Thank you so much for sharing your passion for education and for delectable desserts.
oh, it's
Thank you to the audience for watching and listening. If you enjoyed this, if you found this to be a delicious episode, please let Sherry know in the comments, and also like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, remember to treat love as a verb.